Modern men are awakening to an uncomfortable truth. What was once called love now feels more like a contract for slow emotional erosion. They were told that marriage was the highest form of commitment, that real men provide, protect, and persevere no matter the cost. But no one warned them what that cost would be. It's not just about paying bills or being the reliable one. It's about carrying emotional burdens you're never allowed to speak of. It's about being applauded for your silence and punished for your honesty. In this world, the man who walks away is seen as the villain, even when his heart has been bled dry. The culture has trained men to equate endurance with virtue and suffering with strength. But there's a difference between discipline and self. You don't heal by staying in environments that keep wounding you, and you don't prove your loyalty by dying on a hill of resentment. Sometimes, abandoning marriage is not abandonment at all, it's reclamation. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Marriage today often becomes that avoidance. Instead of becoming more whole, many men fragment themselves just to keep the peace. They silence their instincts. They hide their truth. They morph into shadows of themselves because they believe that is what love demands. But if love requires the death of your authenticity, then it's not love, it's emotional hostage-taking. Self-care for men isn't just about gym memberships or vacations. It's about spiritual battle. To abandon a modern marriage that demands self-erasure is to say, I choose myself. Not because I hate you, but because I refuse to keep living a half. The reason so many men silently suffer in marriage is because no one ever gave them permission to question it. Society is full of noise that says, be a man. But almost none of that noise tells you how to be a man in a world that rewards your silence and punishes your soul. We must understand the psychological warfare at play. From early childhood, boys are conditioned to earn love, not to receive it, but to perform for it. Be strong, but never too emotional. Be successful, but never complain. Be loyal, even if it kills you. This emotional script follows men into marriage, and the tragedy is that most don't even realize they've internalized it. They think they're choosing love. What they're really choosing is servitude, dressed as devotion. Marriage is not inherently evil, but its modern form has become dangerously lopsided, especially in cultures where masculinity is seen as a utility, not a humanity. Men are praised when they sacrifice and shamed when they rest. They are called selfish when they ask for space, but dependable when they burn themselves out. So what happens? They shut down, they become emotionally numb, not because they don't feel, but because feeling is punished. Carl Jung called this repression, and repression always leads to projection. The wife says, you're cold. The man doesn't respond, because warmth has always been used against him. When a man begins to wake up from this psychological spell, he doesn't rage, he detaches, and this detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Marriage, in many ways, has become the arena where men are expected to prove they are lovable through suffering. If you endure enough, maybe you'll be seen. If you stay long enough, maybe you'll be loved. But here's the hidden cost. The longer he stays where he cannot be his full self, the more his inner world withers. Not all prisons have bars. Some wear white dresses and say, forever. We are not we are anti-sex. And there is a difference. The psychological toll on men in dysfunctional marriages is grossly underreported. Depression, anxiety, substance abuse, even suicide, all silently growing behind the smile of the good husband. To choose self-care is not to become selfish. It is to finally recognize that your peace is sacred, and anything that routinely violates that peace, even if it once felt like love, must be examined. Jung said the self is not a concept, it is a lived truth. You cannot individuate while being emotionally blackmailed. You cannot become your highest form in a space that asks you to be smaller every day. Many men are not afraid of hard work. They are afraid of being hated for choosing themselves. They fear the label, he gave up. But no one says that about the man who gave everything until he disappeared. He dies a hero to everyone except himself. That is not strength. That is martyrdom. There comes a point where a man must decide, am I committed to her validation, or my the other two, liberation. Men are waking up because their souls can no longer afford to sleep. And when you finally choose your sanity over the optics of being the ideal husband, you don't just walk away from marriage, you walk into manhood. Some will say, but you made a vow. And yes, perhaps you did. But what happens when that vow becomes a noose? What happens when the very structure meant to protect your soul is the one draining it? You cannot evolve in a space that weaponizes your empathy. And you cannot love someone who only wants the version of you that stays silent. This isn't abandonment. This is the refusal to abandon yourself. Carl Jung warned about the consequences of denying your inner truth. What you repress does not disappear, it festers. Then it explodes. That's why so many men suffer breakdowns in their 40s and 50s. Not because life got harder, but because the mask became unbearable. A marriage built on silence is a slow death. The man who dares to walk away isn't running from responsibility, he's running toward rebirth. He's reclaiming the parts of himself he buried to make someone else comfortable. Society says, you're a coward if you leave. But staying in a place where you are consistently disrespected, unheard, and unloved, that is not courage. That is unconscious self-abandonment. The masculine soul cannot thrive under the constant weight of emotional invalidation. He must be free to feel without being mocked. He must be free to speak without being emasculated. He must be free to exist beyond the performance. We must deconstruct the fantasy that all marriages are sacred. Some are sacred, yes, but many are silent battlegrounds where resentment grows louder than love. The ring doesn't guarantee respect. The ceremony doesn't promise connection. The legal contract doesn't create emotional safety. Marriage was supposed to be a sacred bond, not a spiritual coffin. If you are dying inside a relationship that no longer sees you, no longer honors you, no longer fuels your soul, then leaving is not failure. It is divine intervention. Jung believed that true healing begins when a man turns inward. When he stops blaming the world and starts asking, what within me allowed this to continue? That's not shame. That's power. You heal not by punishing your ex or reliving your pain. You heal by reclaiming your boundaries and refusing to negotiate with your dignity. You heal by realizing that love without respect is emotional manipulation in disguise. If your needs are always secondary, your voice always suppressed, your truth always twisted into guilt, then you are not in a partnership, you are in a performance, and you deserve to retire the role. A man who walks away is not weak. He is not selfish. He is simply awake. He realizes that marriage without authenticity is spiritual poverty. He realizes that obligation is not love and endurance is not enlightenment. Every man must confront this mirror at some point in his life. Is this life mine or one I am performing for others? The man who chooses himself isn't abandoning anyone. He is finally honoring someone he's neglected for far too long, his own soul. We are not against women. We are against systems that reward female immaturity while punishing male emotional awareness. A healthy relationship requires to whole people, not a man who shrinks so his partner can feel big. The cost of staying in a lopsided marriage is not just emotional, it's existential. You wake up one day and realize that the boy in you who once dreamed, once felt deeply, once had purpose, he's gone, and you never even said goodbye. Choosing yourself is not revenge. It's resurrection. It's choosing to breathe again, to feel again, to live again. And that takes more courage than staying and pretending. There is no honor in staying where your masculinity is only appreciated when it's useful. There is no growth in a home that calls your emotions weakness. There is no joy in sleeping beside someone who no longer sees you. Some men fear being alone, but solitude is not loneliness when your soul is finally at peace. Silence becomes sacred when it replaces constant criticism. Space becomes healing when it follows years of emotional chaos. To abandon marriage is to abandon the illusion. The illusion that love is martyrdom. The illusion that peace will come if you just hold on longer. The illusion that she will finally understand once you've suffered enough. The truth is, the longer you ignore your needs, the more resentment builds. And resentment is the soil where intimacy dies. You cannot love through resentment. You can only pretend. And pretending is spiritual suicide. Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. So long as you keep resisting your truth, your body will suffer, your mind will decay, your life will become a prison. But the moment you surrender to your own voice, everything shifts. Leaving is hard, but staying for the wrong reasons will cost you everything. Your health, your joy, your soul. Is that the legacy you want to leave? A man who stayed loyal to pain? You owe no one the version of yourself that keeps bleeding for their comfort. You are not born to be an emotional punching bag. You were born to evolve, to heal, to transcend. Your healing will trigger those who benefited from your silence. Let them be triggered. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your own transformation. As you rebuild, you will lose some people. Let them go. You will outgrow environments where survival was the only goal, and in their place, you will find something sacred yourself. The most radical act of self-care is truth. The most masculine decision is not conquest, it's alignment. And the most powerful thing a man can do is walk away from what no longer reflects his inner worth. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for a breakdown. Don't wait for her to change. You are allowed to choose freedom. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to evolve beyond the story they gave you. Let the world say what it will. Let them call you names. Let them twist your narrative. At the end of the day, you will sleep knowing you chose truth over tradition, peace over performance, self-respect over sacrifice. Marriage may have been the dream, but peace is the reality. And if the two no longer coexist, you already know which one to choose. Your soul has waited long enough.